Every once in a while you come across a car brand that literally has nothing to offer. Poor performance, reliability challenges, just a dud, and even the technology is lacking. Well, let's get right to the point. I'm going to share a list of 3 of those major car brands that I would never touch with a 20-foot pole, can't stand them, don't like them, and would never buy them. Let's go.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
Right there's the first specimen of a vehicle brand that I would never buy. Not because it doesn't have some cute lights or a great little front styling on there. I mean, a lot of people like these. They have a great look. Very basic looking components though. The handles are very simple. Everything's simple. We even get hubcaps. As is the rear taillight assembly, quite basic and stick-on right there. Lots of plastic on the back to behold on the RVR. Quite frankly, the interior is very uninspiring. That's part of the issue. Another issue is Mitsubishi has literally given up the ghost for selling cars for them pretty much, other than the Mirage, which is basically a trash can on wheels. This is not a particularly great car. CVT transmission and an underpowered drivetrain to move it down the road. But also, here we have the Outlander, which is clearly another spud, and they've had a lot of problems with front collision avoidance systems issues, jerking, juddering, issues with that. We also have a CVT transmission, which is problematic. Lots of electrical problems with these vehicles as well. Bad paint that chips, roofs that dent, or that glass that breaks. Airbag lights that come on inadvertently, as well as check engine lights, but a whistling and a whining noise coming from out under the hood because of the continuously variable transmission is a big reason why that any vehicle manufacturer that hangs up their hat on continuously variable transmissions, I want nothing to do with. Here's another problem right here. We have another car, and this is another reason why this brand will never be in my driveway. Of course, here we see a very basic, it's a Mitsubishi Mirage, as I already mentioned. Very simplistic, basic car. Not a lot going on other than little Pep Boys grill here. And of course, a very simple headlight with bolt-on flares, as you can see, custom modification. Of course, clearly we have panel gap issues. Well, that's probably because this thing's been smacked and backed all the way around. But there are electrical issues with these, and there's also problems with the braking system. Unfortunately, because the car is so inexpensive, when this thing hits the shop, it doesn't make the repairs any less expensive. And so a person on the budget clearly doesn't even know what they're getting into. Doors as well are known to come off or need to be replaced. And it's just a poorly built vehicle altogether. And so while these vehicles look about as exciting as vanilla yogurt, people are buying them. Yes, they're sold to very nice people, but it's not one vehicle that I would recommend, and I certainly wouldn't buy one. There's another reason, the Lancer. Now this is the Evo, you can tell by the little fender flare and the oversized wing on the back. These ones are winged and blinged. Of course, they are the hot rod version. Get into the base model Lancer and you feel like you're literally in a junk box. The doors are thin and hollow, the car rattles, and it feels like there's no substance to it. I drove one a few years ago and it was really awe-inspired. Not. So literally, I have to say Mitsubishi, definitely not a brand. Stick to electronics. Car's not your widget. Well, the next manufacturer, it pains me to say this because they actually come from a place where 20 years ago they were an amazing brand. They held their own with Toyotas, and as well anything that was in that space, Toyota and Honda, and of course Nissan is the brand I'm speaking of. Used to be a solid brand, and then they went a different direction. Well, Toyota kept it simple, went with torque converter transmissions, naturally aspirated V6s. We had Nissan trying different things, smaller engines. They went with CVTs, continuously variable transmissions, and that is the most uninspiring gearbox. What do we have here? A very basic little car here. Here's one reason. These have a lot of little electrical problems as well as gearbox issues. Well, this is called the cash call right there. That means bring more money every time you turn the key on. And then over here we have the Nissan Murano. Of course, it's a beautiful vehicle. I mean, I will give it to Nissan. Look at the styling. Beautiful chrome detailing there, chrome handles with single touch in. Look at the rear styling. I will say they're probably one of the more attractive smaller SUVs on the market. Great lines right here. As you cycle down, you got to follow those lines. It's a beautiful looking unit. Of course, they have their flip away mirrors with LED. And of course, look, even in the front, they have those nice little nostrils. The vehicle looks very aggressive. It actually looks quite sporty for an SUV. Beautiful LED lights. And I love those gunmetal gray rims. I will say even the interior looks decent enough, although there's a fair amount of plastic, makes it look like a giant tackle box. And then of course the Nissan Rogue, it basically went rogue on reliability when you're talking about earth-shattering issues. Of course, with the sunroof popping out, of course with gearbox, because of that CVT transmission, electrics, and the whole host of challenges that Nissan's actually been seeing in the last few years. And right here's another model that we're looking at. the Nissan Altima, of course, this one's all-wheel drive, and yeah, it has a lot of great lower grade plastic there. You'll notice the plastic doesn't feel high quality. Listen. But there's been lots of problems with these vehicles. They say this is one of the least reliable Nissan vehicles. We have catalytic converter issues, fuel pump problems, window regulators, and above all, it's that transmission again. That late model Nissans with that CVT transmission are brutal. They're definitely something to walk away from. Now, to note, if you go 15 years ago, 20 years ago, Nissans were a great product. And if you could get some of the older Nissans with a manual gearbox and the old V6, they were a lot of fun. But things have changed in the last few years. And clearly, this one here is an example, a shining example of why I wouldn't buy one. And the worst part is, as you walk down the car lot, it's literally a flip of the coin which one of these is going to suffer a catastrophic transmission failure. In other words, you can spend $3,000 or $4,000 on that alone. And truly it is unfortunate because there's only two vehicles in the Nissan space that I would really go. The Nissan Titan seems to be a solid unit, not without issues, but it seems to be solid. And of course the GTR, which is legendary for performance. Outside of that, there's really nothing else. As a matter of fact, dealers are gouging consumers on that new latest Z car. It's just ridiculous. So I will hand it to them. Bringing in the Z, having the GTR do represent some effort to bring passion back to the driving experience. The fact remains is anything that's more utilitarian is going to be problematic with fueling issues, electric issues, catalytic converter, and the worst, the gearbox. Nissan, not for me, thanks. And the next car parked clearly next to great company. Here we have Mitsu again. Now we have a Kia, and we've talked about them as well. Another Mitsubishi. These are clearly the rental car special or building bad credit type cars. This car here, as we can see, is the brand that I would never buy. There was a time when I thought they were kind of fun. Back in the day when you can get a manual gearbox and you get the Subaru WRX STI or just the base model WRX and a manual gearbox all-wheel drive, it seemed like it had all the ingredients other than the fact that that flat four-cylinder engine made it sound a little bit like it was misfiring. But that was just part of the character of that car, right? So then time goes on, then they start developing other cars, the 3.6, not a really reliable workhorse, as well as a lot we're finding is starting to come out of this word work are problems with those engines. A lot of the engines, we're talking about the flat fours, ringland issues, particularly on the turbo engines, burning oil, broken pistons, and as well just catastrophic engine failures. Sadly, Subaru hasn't had a really good reliability record, and quite frankly, we're learning more as time goes on. To make matters worse, they decide to go ahead and throw in a CVT, continuously variable elastic band style transmission on those cars, and you just make it all that much worse. You have a car that's buzzy to drive around in, it's somewhat unreliable. That CVT has its moments, and quite frankly, a lot of the engines are really hit and miss. I personally had somebody, a friend of mine, bought a Forester just like this one, actually almost identical if we're being honest, and he was doing a mountain pass, driving up a hill in the mountains, doing a little vacation, not racing, just driving up, passing a slow semi on the right-hand side, and he developed an engine knock, and he had a bit of an issue there. He also had to get the top end rebuilt. He had problems right from the get-go. The Subaru Forester was just one that just not a great vehicle, and clearly engine issues, reliability with some of the electrics, but it's mostly engine. CVT is just a bad combination, and then again, they're just lacking inspiration. Sure, you can get the STI, it's fun, but try to buy one used. They've all been bagged and modified. Buying a new one is overpriced. It's like a Honda Civic for 50 grand. It just doesn't seem to make sense. And then you look at this vehicle and it feels like it's basically a milk carton on wheels. Look at that squareness and then just that little nose at the top. That's the part that you peel away to pour your milk into a jug right there. That's your pouring spout. And this is basically the milk carton right there. Not sure at what point does somebody look at this vehicle and say, you know what? I need to have that. Nah, not this redneck cowboy. That's not a chance you'll ever see me parking one of these in my driveway either. Let's take a closer look. Very generic Canadian Tire Pep Boy style taillight assembly. Fake chrome rims. You can see they're actually snap-on because they're just a hubcap. Of course, we do have a smaller set of handles, which are fine. And the interior is very, very basic. Feels almost like the Mitsubishi Mirage, not even on steroids. This is just a very basic vehicle. Of course, you do get a sunroof on it though, and a roof rack to haul your bed bug infested mattress to the dumpster. Look at this great little mirror. How cute is that? And of course, circle around, a very basic incandescent style of light fixture right there. And this grille isn't very inspiring either. Not sure what that symbol is, but quite frankly, this vehicle just does not hold a candle to any of its competitors. Go look at a Honda or Toyota, it'll trump this like there's no tomorrow. But quite frankly, because of its durability, reliability issues, lackluster performance, odd styling, you'll never ever see me driving a Subaru of any sort. And with all of that said, be sure to check out that. Yes, that's 3 car brands that are the worst on the planet for various and obvious reasons. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.